The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated. Welcome back to the Nova Society, a space where dialogue deepens understanding and civic responsibility comes to life. I'm Dr. Mark Bound, joined by our regular panel, Dr. Scott Gershwer and Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon. Together, we'll unpack the stories that matter most, exploring the headlines, the history, and the big ideas shaping today's conversations. Let's dive in and hear what the panel has for us today.
Today we have a question from Mike from Queens, and Queens, New York, of course. And Mike writes, I have got 2 rants today, and honestly, I'm shocked my blood pressure survived the weekend. First, that Meet the Press interview. What was that? I've seen toddlers in the cereal aisle handle tough questions better. The host tossed him softballs so gentle they practically had feathers, and all she asked for was proof. Proof! Instead, we got a word salad monologue about voter fraud in California that sounded like someone shook a magic 8-ball too hard. And the moment she pushed back, she, by the way, to our listeners who have not seen that, was Kristen Welker. The moment she pushed back just a little, he melted down like a popsicle on the F train in July, calling her crooked and stupid. Please! I've heard more mature comebacks from my nephew's kindergarten class. I kept wishing, just once, a journalist would look him dead in the eye and say, Sir, you're not the hero of this story. But no, that would cause a 5-alarm meltdown among the MAGA faithful who treat him like he's the patron saint of spray tan. So, panel, I am begging you, was Kristen Welker the wrong person to interview someone who treats every question like a personal insult? Because I watched the whole thing and I needed antacids afterward. Second rant. Why was he at the Knicks game? Why does everything have to turn into the Trump show? He looked like he was dozing off between plays. I know the Knicks owner is a buddy of his, but come on. Knicks fans are already hanging on by a thread emotionally. If they think the team's being used as a political photo op, we might see a full-scale fan revolt. And, excuse me, honestly, who could blame them? Go Knicks! Yeah, so regarding the questions, what I would like to see is someone say, after being called stupid and crooked and all that, I'd like to see someone say, you know, no one speaks to me like that. I need an apology. And of course, when one is not forthcoming, tell the text to cut the mics and say that this interview is over and be the one to stop the interview, or start asking open-ended questions. What is your evidence? Because of course there isn't any. And making a statement saying there is no evidence or we haven't seen any evidence, those are statements. If you, asking an open-ended question, what is the evidence? But really, I don't think anybody can have a fruitful interview with someone like this, which is why I would stop the interview myself after being spoken to like that. But go ahead.
I 100% agree with you. I don't understand what the point is of having the interview in the first place. I don't understand why any real journalist would want to talk to somebody whose idea of transparency is lying to your face. It is a ridiculous thing. He says the craziest things, and somebody has convinced him that he's telling the truth. And that he knows something that other people don't know about California. There's cheating going on in California. There was cheating going on in the 2020 election. It is just, he's just so out of control. He's never going to tell you the truth about anything. So what exactly is the point of doing a meet the press interview?
Well, first of all, Mike, I will say this. When I saw from Queens, New York, and I was reading this, and I have to admit, I was laughing. Good sense of humor that you had there. You presented this in a very good way. All right, so I I can kind of agree with Scott in the sense that, you know what you're going to get before you get started. Why would you expect something different? But let's face it, the man is unfortunately the president of the United States. That is newsworthy. However, now this is where I'm going to disagree just a little bit with Brooklyn. I don't think you can do this. I think what you said, Brooke, if this was a reasonable, rational person, yeah, great idea. But we're basically dealing with a 5-year-old. I understand the reluctance of journalists to basically say, what they're thinking, because they're trying to maintain that kind of respect. But this is where I have a problem, not only with journalists but with the Democrats. Sometimes you got to fight fire with fire, in my mind. Sometimes you got to call it out. He sets the tone as to what the rules are. And his rules are, I'm going to call you stupid, I'm going to call you ugly, I'm going to call you piggy, I'm going to do all these kind of things. He set the rule. We have to divide out the concept of the office and the person holding the office. The office, as I think all would agree, is so far above the way Trump talks. He degrades the office every time he opens his mouth. And you know what? That means now when you cut back with, you know what? I think you're the biggest piece of shit president that's ever walked on the face of the earth. You're now talking to the person, because he set the tone. He set the rules of engagement. And his attitude is I'm immune from an attack back of the same level or lack thereof because I'm the president of the United States. And I think that's why he gets away with things. And I think that's why the Republicans or the Democrats are having such a hard time. You got to start fighting fire with fire. You got to stop bringing a knife to a gunfight here, boys and girls. You got
to a gunfight.
Yeah. I mean, come on. You cannot do this. And when it comes, I watched the interview, and it's painful to watch. It is absolutely painful to watch. Here's a journalist trying to do, and you're right, Mike, these were softball questions. These were really softball questions. And all I'm asking for is, can you show me the proof? And he can't do it. So this is an interesting, an interesting look at exactly how Trump handles himself. And I say this, yes, we should always respect the office of the president of the United States, but to the level that the person that is in the office sets the bar to. And if you want to get a good take onto this, CBC has a really great short thing on YouTube, and it's called About That. And he actually talks about this interview and the strategy that Trump uses and how he tries to use the immunity of the office as protection from, again, me, I'd say, hey, shitty pants, maybe you got to go over there and change your diaper. And you know what? You can't talk like that. How about having some respect for the office that you hold? And hopefully, it's like when he said to Caitlin Collins, you never smile. Oh, you're a beautiful woman and you never smile. You know what? Caitlin Collins would be well within her right, regardless of the fact that she's talking to the president of the United States, to come back and say, you never give me any reason to smile. I think you're a terrible reporter. I think you're corrupt. I think you're a corrupt politician. I think your ass should be in jail. This is the rules. This is the rules that the person in the office, and I've always said we've come to this conclusion in this United States where the office and the person cannot be separated. Well, I got news for you, boys and girls. This person here has shown that it has to be separated, Because hopefully the president of the United States is a hell of a lot better than this.
There's one last thing I want to say about the interview itself, okay? Which is this. They taped that interview, I think, on Thursday. On Sunday, Kristen Welker had on Ben Rhodes, who was the Deputy Secretary of State, I think, for Barack Obama. He's got a new book out. And she said to him in that interview, a live interview on Sunday, she repeated Trump's lie about Iran cheating on the JPCOA. And he said, no, I reject your premise. They weren't cheating. And we know they weren't. Because Trump's own people told him that they were complying with that and that he should stay with the deal, and he didn't, and here we are today. But I don't understand, like, I don't watch a lot of TV journalists. I basically limit it to, like, those Sunday morning shows. I like Fareed Zakaria, and I usually watch one or two of these other shows. And I'm always flabbergasted by the lack of quality in our so-called journalists today, because to repeat something that she heard from Trump to somebody who's like a more serious human being just seems to me like the nadir of journalism. And I have very little respect for I think most of them who run these talk shows. I will say I like the Atlantic one that's on Friday afternoons or Friday evenings. And only because they're really snarky, and that kind of appeals to my sensibilities. But for the most part, the way journalists have covered Donald Trump from the very beginning. You could really go back to 2013 when he started out with all the birther stuff about Barack Obama. Has been absolutely counterproductive to anything that would be like serious discourse, and just they should all be ashamed of themselves. I mean, Morning Joe, who I haven't watched in years now, basically gave Trump a forum for saying whatever the hell he wanted to say with very little to no pushback on the idiotic things that he was saying at the time, and it has continued to this day. He's once he starts with the accordion hands and he's waving his hands back and forth, he's lying and he's going into his prearranged shtick. And I think you're right, Brooke. She should have stopped the interview, but I'll stick with my original idea. There's no reason to actually talk to this guy. I don't care if he's the president of the United States or not. You're never going to get a word of truth out of the guy. So what's the point? You're better off speaking to other people who can step back a little bit and look at these policies that he's putting out there that are horrific policies, that are self-destructive to America, that are self-destructive to, as far as our standing in the world. We have never been weaker than we are right now. We have made Iran a global power. I just find it absolutely disgraceful that we're even taking this guy seriously at this point. I actually believe that the reason he stopped that interview when he did and walked off is because, they had a couple of rain delays during the taping of the interviews and he had to go. You know what I mean? He couldn't wait any longer. He couldn't sit there anymore. He had to find himself a bathroom or change his diaper or whatever it is that he had to do, and it was just getting to him, and it completely destroyed his temperament.
Oh, that is a very good possibility, Scott. There's no doubt about that. I think it was all well. I think it was well planned. It plays great to look at him show that liberal journalist, who's the boss.
They've actually done screenshots of her gnashing her teeth at him, which I don't remember seeing at all.
No, yeah, bro.
Yeah, well, the rain certainly bothered him. Even though he said it didn't, he kept his body language certainly demonstrated that it did, and he kept getting distracted, and he kept getting angrier and angrier and angrier. It was interesting to watch his face, and his teeth started to come out, and his brows got more and more furrowed, and it was very interesting to watch how angry he got. Um, and who do you think? Do you think? I don't know if he would even accept having a man interview him. Who do you think might? I mean, do you think he'd be better off with a psychiatrist asking him questions to get some reasonable answers, or I mean, do you think anybody could get decent answers from this man, a journalist, to try to answer
No.
Mike's question?
No.
Not really. No, I mean,
He's not going to do that.
Yeah, no, he can't handle it. He's not putting himself in that position. And I mean, there's this thing. It's not new, I guess, but it's been hitting me more. He was asked about Stephen A. Smith. We'll talk about the Nick game in a minute. But he was talking. Stephen A. Smith had criticized him and said, "Please don't do this. You can't come to this game." And he said Stephen A. Smith is a low IQ guy. You go through the list of people he's called low IQ, they're all black. Every black person is a low IQ person to him. And if it's a black woman like April Ryan or Jasmine Crockett, it's even worse. His racism, his sexism, all of his worst characteristics come out when he's confronted by people like people of color or women, and he couldn't handle a guy. If I interviewed Donald Trump, I would just say to his face, "Man, why are you lying to us?" And we would be having fisticuffs before you knew it. The two of us would be rolling on the floor punching each other. It's just not possible. You can't. What would be the point of it? Trying to get a serious statement out of this guy. He's a clown, and he's a dangerous clown, and that's the worst kind of clown there is. Want to talk about the Knicks? Mike from Queens.
Please go with the Knicks.
It sounds like the fan, Mike from Queens.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. I've been to a lot of Knicks games in my life.
You weren't at this Knicks game, were you?
They were. No, it was not.
$8,000 a ticket. If so, we got to cut your salary here.
Yeah, that's right. It was a little above my pay grade to go, but I don't even remember how much we paid for tickets when they were playing Detroit and Boston in the mid 80s, 83, 84, 85. That time frame. We would drive into the city, we would park, we would go to the game, we would hang out afterwards. It was so much fun. The Garden was alive. I don't know if anybody here has ever been to Madison Square Garden, but it's on like the ninth floor of the building. And it is suspended on giant rubber bands, basically. And when the Garden gets going, it actually bounces.
Yes.
You can feel the room bouncing. It's an enormous room bouncing, and it is the coolest sensation in the world. And I've experienced it a couple of times. Back when Bernard King was the star of the Knicks in like 84, 85, that area, during the layup lines before the games, the fans were going so crazy that the Garden would be bouncing because Bernard was so electrifying, such an amazing scorer. Nobody could stop him from scoring, dropping 40 like it was nothing, 60 if he needed it. There weren't a lot of other scorers on the team, and he was just electrifying, and he made the Garden bounce. And the other guy who did it was during the Bob Dylan festival, Bob Fest, as Neil Young called it. Lou Reed played a basically unknown Bob Dylan song, an outtake from his Infidels album called Foot of Pride. And folks, if you ever get a chance, go on YouTube and look up Lou Reed Foot of Pride. You may get a sense of what it was like to be in the building. He had the entire Garden bouncing in rhythm like I've never experienced before. And, Lou Reed, just fantastic job there. Now, because I have been to the Garden so many times, because I have been to so many Knick and Ranger games at Madison Square Garden, I can tell you that Trump was very often there. He sat underneath one of the baskets along the baseline. He was very often there with Dolan. They're both Nepo babies, like you wouldn't believe, right? Nolan's father made his fortune. Trump's father made his fortune. Neither one of them has earned a thing in their lives, so they're very much alike. And it didn't surprise me that Trump wanted to go. Whether he should have gone or not is another question. I don't believe he should have. I think that the Secret Service should have put the veto on that. The disruption that they caused was out of control. They ruined a lot of people's good times. Mamdani actually put together a alternative watch fest down at Bryant Park, which is great because there's usually one right outside the garden, and they couldn't have that one because the security was so bad. He had to know that he was going to get booed, and whether he, was willing to admit it, obviously he's not. Somebody that I know who was outside the garden, I don't remember if they were trying to get into the garden or they were just hanging around outside and going to go watch the game at a bar or something, said that he was there when the motorcade drove by and it was slow, and they were getting booed like you wouldn't believe, and Trump was waving in the back seat, and everybody was giving him two fingers, as he went by and booing him. So he couldn't possibly think that he was going to get a warm reception at the Garden in New York. Forget about it. This is not Oklahoma, He should have gone over there. So while I know why he wanted to go, and he's a long-suffering Knicks fan, I truly believe that. I mean, he's what we are. It's been since 1973, and he's been there. I'm sure he was there more to be seen than actually watch the games, but he's probably a Knicks fan. It was a bad move on his part, and the Knicks have to. And the Knicks, by the way, got completely flummoxed by the crowd, by the just the moment was above them, more so than the Spurs were, much more so than the Spurs were, and hopefully they'll get it together tonight.
We shall see. We shall definitely see. Yeah, I mean, I understand the frustration, and it really is a shame that it disrupted the block party that was outside, the watch party, because there's so many people that, as we mentioned, the tickets were so outrageously expensive. Your average New Yorker probably wasn't going, but it does show how many rich people there are in New York and Connecticut. I mean, because the place was packed, plain and simple. And yeah, it's a shame that it went that way. I did not know that Trump would go to basketball games. I know nothing about his sporting preferences or anything like that, but he is the first president to attend an NBA final. Obama was a basketball guy, and even he wouldn't go because he said it detracted from the game. It was too much of a distraction. So he had this self-awareness to say, yeah, I love basketball. Boy, would I love to be on, they're at courtside. Absolutely. But for the people, I'm going to stick my ass at home and watch it on television, and that's the way it's going to go. And that is the sign of a president that gives a damn about the people. And again, there's a stark difference. And you see sometimes Obama will be at courtside on regular season games and things like that, and it's kind of funny. His reception there is always positive. But old Donnie Diaper, he didn't get it, and he had the post interview afterwards when he was leaving. Well, they were all crying, as if they're all happy to see him. I mean, good God, come on! Talk about self-delusional. Talk about self-delusional. And no, they were sticking up the middle finger, and they were not saying you're number one. I'm sorry, that's not. We're talking New York. That is not what that means in New York. You're number one, unless they're saying you're the number one asshole. That's it. So yeah, once again, inserting himself.
So, a bunch of friends that I was on a group chat with that night were despairing at the performance, which they should have, because it was frankly a horrible performance. But nobody had the Knicks in 4. That is a ridiculous idea. that the Knicks were
Except
going to
that one
sweep
guy
them.
that they interviewed. They interviewed this one guy. He was on Jimmy, and they had the video of him on Jimmy Kimmel, and they had him on all the late nights. And this guy was saying Nixon 4. I think he was the
Yeah.
only one.
Yeah, all right, maybe. But I mean, there's one lunatic out there who would thought that. But Nixon 6 though, and I think they're going to win tonight. I think they'll probably put it together and go back to the game plan has been successful for them. They'll go back to that, and hopefully they'll win down in San Antonio, but they probably won't. And they'll come back to the Garden and win there. All good, all good.
Do
Nixon
you think the
6.
atmosphere? Because we were talking this before Brooklyn came out. Do you really think the atmosphere with him being there affected the team's play?
I don't think it had anything to do with him being there, but it is it is something. The atmosphere itself is something, and just the way they played in the first quarter, throwing the ball to people who weren't even on the court, just throwing behind and getting themselves locked up in situations, and Brunson clearly let the game get away from him. He started going back to last year's Brunson, where he's just dribbling the ball way too much. Cat didn't get enough hand touches. OG played great, and he's got the kind of temperament for that. He's a very quiet, stoic guy. You never see any emotion from it all, and he had a great game. They just didn't play their game. They didn't stick with the game plan. Maybe the Spurs made some adjustments. The refereeing, I will say, was horrific. So many calls overturned, and if the Knicks had another one, this is a crazy thing about the NBA, you get two, whether you get them or not, whether they're good or not, and so you only get two. And the Knicks really needed a third one, and they didn't have it to overturn a big call at the end of that game. And but the referees were overturned way too often for you to say, "Oh no, that was a fair refereed game." It was not. I mean, it went both ways, maybe. But I mean, I've never seen grappling going on the way that these guys were. I mean, Wemby throwing Brunson to the ground, Castle like running through Brunson like he wasn't even there, and they didn't call that. And they called a flagrant foul on Brunson for basically the guy landed on him. And if you watch it, I think it was Castle or Vessel, I forget. They kind of look alike with the hair. Landed on his foot when Brunson had his back turned, and they called a flagrant foul on Brunson. So those are some really, really bad calls, and Knick fans, and Mike Brown should be upset at the refereeing, because it was really terrible, and it really did feel at times. I will say, I'm not generally the kind that does this, that the NBA wanted a couple more games. And so they weren't happy with a Knicks sweep, but I don't think just the way the Knicks played was so terrible. I certainly could go through the numbers and say, like, I think they were 3 of 20 or something from threes in the fourth quarter. They turned the ball over 13 times, led to 21 points by the Spurs. That's not winning basketball. So they didn't deserve that game. They did lose it. It was kind of hard to watch. Hopefully they'll get back to it today and close this thing out in the next couple of games. But I think it'll probably go 6.
Well, I will say this. There was one question that was put in here that I did not include into it. And I'm going to actually give this one to you, Scott, because this is from Mike. What did you think of the French kid?
The Wemby? Wemby's, I mean, they call him the alien, and they ain't far off. This guy.
But the second part of that question was, would he have been able to stand up against, say, a big, a standard big center, such as?
Well, I mean, I think Cat's had his way with him
Shaq.
for the most part.
You think Shaq would have had his way with him?
Yes. So far, I mean, he's kind of thin, and he doesn't have the power yet. He will eventually, I think, but he didn't have the power yet to throw around Cat. I think the Knicks faced them in December in the NBA Cup, and both Robinson and Cat kind of tossed him around like a rag doll. So I he's not quite what he's going to be, which is fine. He's 23, I think, years old.
Yeah.
But Cat had his way with him in San Antonio. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't have his way with him now. They just didn't give the ball to Cat. That's all.
Yep.
I mean, he is the best player on the team. And one of the things about this team that I really, really do love and they are all willing passers and good shooters. You can't slough off on any of these guys, and they are willing to share the ball. And it's been really great to watch. I mean, it's very, very much like the 73 Knicks with Earl Monroe coming in and basically not being Earl Monroe, scoring every time he got the ball, and them sharing the ball with everybody. This is a really, really nice team. They seem to like one another. They like playing with one another. This guy Landry Shamet has been probably a poor player that they signed for like the vet minimum, and he's playing great. Everybody loves Deuce McBride. Everybody loves Alvarado, who's a New York kid, is a Brooklyn boy, went to, I think, Christ the King, which is in Middle Village. Everybody loves him, and he had some really nice plays. But I love the team. I think that they're better than the Spurs and that they're going to beat the Spurs. But I think the Spurs have a really good future. I mean, look at that draft, the 3 years in a row who they drafted in Wemby, Castle, who played for Connecticut, and then Ryan Daniels, Ryan, not Daniels, Ryan. Oh my Lord. I'll get it in a second, man. I just blanked on that.
That's okay.
Fantastic rookie player out there, and so their future is very, very bright. They're going to win a lot of championships, I think, if they can all hang together and stay healthy. But right now, Karl Anthony Towns is going to beat up Wemby tonight. But
okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it, Mike.
And if he doesn't,
your ulcers.
I don't know if you noticed it, but Larry David was courtside.
Yeah.
Did you see that? I don't know if you've ever seen the episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm where Larry David stretches his legs out and trips Shaq. Shaq's out for like 3 months. I think he's our secret weapon. As Wemby's running down the court, Larry David sticks his legs out and trips him up. But he'll get a hero's greeting if he does it at the Garden.
Oh, dear. Well, no, I've only been to the Garden for horse shows, so I can't say anything about basketball. When I found out that the orange guy was going to the game and the mess it was going to cause for everyone else, and tying up traffic and clogging the sidewalks and ruining the evening for everybody else. It was just so awful. I mean, why? It just shows the incredible narcissism and just not caring. Well, that's what a narcissist is. But it's just so crass.
Trumpy.
And yeah, it really is. And other people, this is what they have to look forward to. They're really looking forward to this. And Trump has tons of TVs and could get a really good picture and whatnot. He could watch it at the White House. He could watch it at Mar-a-Lago. He could go to any one of his places that he owns. He doesn't have,
By the way, I was so far off. It's not Ryan. Did I say Ryan Dan? I didn't even know where I got that from. Dylan Harper was the number one, was the number 2 pick in the NBA draft. The Spurs took him out of Rutgers. Believe it or not, there were 2 guys from Rutgers in the top 5. Rutgers, can you believe that? In the NBA draft, there were 2 guys, and Dylan Harper has been playing great. And probably should start, although I thought De'Aaron Fox hit the biggest shot of the game on Monday night. But Dylan Harper, man, I don't know how I blanked on that.
Well, Mike,
Here's
hopefully
here's
answered
one
your
other
question.
thing though.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, because Brooke mentioned the horse show, and I have been to rodeos there myself. But I was also back in the day when the Knicks were in the first round of the playoffs back in like '84. The circus was also at the same time in town, or had just left.
And I've been to the circus. My grandmother took me to the circus, but I never cared for it. I like the horse show.
Yeah, I don't blame you, but the smell in the garden back in those days was like nothing you've ever smelled before, probably until Trump got there. And that's all I have to say about that.
Okay.
Next question.
Next
Next
question.
question. Oh dear.
Trump,
Oh
dump.
dear. So
Trump,
we have a
Trump and the elephants.
wow. Okay.
And that's all the time we have for today's episode. The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We want to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing team, Apple Podcasts, the largest source of podcast and music online, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your destination for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. And most importantly, we want to thank you, our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society could not be possible. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing on the platform of your choice. It's easy, it's free, and helps our channel grow. For questions or comments, you can reach us at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So on behalf of Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershworth, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power of society is knowledge. Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you again next time. We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, the Journal of Interdisciplinary Conflict Sciences, the JICS. This open access journal, double peer-reviewed, provides a platform for emerging scholars to publish their work and engage in meaningful dialogue across disciplines. The JICS is currently accepting article submissions on an ongoing basis and is published through the NovaWorks Scholarly Repository at Nova Southeastern University. You'll find a link to the journal in our episode description.